4-day working week. It's come out on it this week, I think, that this... Was it a 6-month trial that 60-odd companies went through? I think 60-odd. So the sort of results of the 6 months the 6 months have passed and the results have come out. Overriding majority of those 61 are... is it that they're going to persevere with it, or they're actually going to implement it sort of from this day onwards as a 4-day working week, you know, set in stone? I don't know, but overriding positivity in that media story. You're a business owner. You have opinions on these things, I'm sure. So go on, give me a 2 pence on your reflections on what you've read and heard, and just generally speaking on that as a scheme, whatever you call this thing.
I think it's quite obvious, isn't it? 4-day working week versus 5-day working week. People are going to be more productive, more rested. They're going to see the benefits of that. I think that where it is probably more applicable is like an industry like investment banking or something like that, where you notoriously work like 12-hour days and you don't get any respite. And it's there's an expectation. I've seen articles in the past from like a JP Morgan, for example, where people doing like 120-hour weeks just to get in and get up the ladder. I think places like that need forced change, such as experiments and trials like this, to make them wake up. However, I think if you've got a good balance in a 5-day working week, then there's no reason to move to a 4-day working week. And service-based industries, it's not gonna fly. We wouldn't want to, nor would put ourselves in a position where we're down a day. And you can argue you have staggered calendars and all this stuff, but it just won't fly for a client of ours that's always on, for example. A 24/7 client dropping a day is going to be a detriment. And then clients that aren't 24/7 but still have a Monday to Friday working week, if they want to get in touch with us and we go, well, we're not here because we've got a 4-day working week, they're going to move agencies.
Yeah.
So whilst I see the benefits in it massively, I think the message and my takeaway is get your shit in order in terms of adequate holidays, flexible working, making sure people are rested, look after your people. I think it's more applicable for negligent employers and archaic institution style businesses like your banks and things like that. And I think where businesses that have repetitive processes as the daily workloads, it's obviously going to be applicable, isn't it? Because you can make efficiencies. There's probably people sat in those businesses that have been part of the trial that have wasted a day a week. So it doesn't mean a loss of a day. It means that they're doing what they would do over 5 days in 4 days, because they're probably spending half an hour in the toilet because they can't be arsed. Do you know what I mean? It's not a shock. It's not the revelation that I think it's being made out to be, and I know that the media puts the spin on it that they want, but I get the value in it. But for me, it just comes down to looking after your team and making it about them. Service-based business like ours, we've got as much as we feel we can possibly do in place already.
Yeah. Do you know anyone that's been involved in the 4-day, or know any stories or whatever?
I know an agency that pitched themselves as moving to a permanent 4-day week, but when it was investigated, was staggered. So there were people on the ground every day.
Yeah.
But some people worked Monday to Thursday, some people worked Tuesday to Friday.
So they always had.
So it wasn't technically, it was a 4-day week for the staff, it wasn't a 4-day week for clients.
Yeah. You're right about the service-based business, and obviously we're coming from that position ourselves. I read one of the stories from the media stuff that's come out last week, whenever it was, that someone who's struggling with knowing, so they went through this company, I can't remember who they are, almost what they do, but they're struggling beyond the 6-month trial to know how it can be put in place. They can see I think they've said they can see the productivity benefits, they can see the the employee well-being benefits, and I've worked at a company like this internally. They've got a couple of different models. So you've got I think I was reading this correctly, they've got like a call centre set up and then a back office, or however you want to call it. The two can't be sort of in sync. The two can't be just immediately switch over to a 4-day working week, and that sort of makes sense. So there's also complications like that within a business that runs, as I said, 2 different schedules, 2 different models, whatever you want to call it. But I think my interpretation of that part of that story was they're determined to put something in place, but that I don't really get that. How can you go through 6 months, still be unclear whether it's sort of still viable for you because you run these 2 different sort of out of sync models internally, but we're still determined to do it? Like, what of the scene that is so big and sort of apparent for them that they need to put the foot down, absolutely pursue this, even though what's actually staring them in the face is a struggle to get the head round it? Is productivity and employee well-being just enough sort of to get themselves a kick up the arse to actually work it all out for them? Are they big enough results? I guess they are big and they're very important, but I don't know.
I think I'd like to understand more about what data they had available to them before doing the trial.
Yeah.
Because did they survey employee happiness ahead of putting that in place, or did they was it the first time that they'd thought about it? Because the data that's coming out of it, like productivity increases and employee happiness scales and things like that, what was it before? And is there an argument to say that you've joined a government-led initiative when you could have perhaps either spoken to your staff and asked them how they felt?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's different, and it's different in all scales of businesses as well, like a 30-person business versus a 3,000-person business, for example.
Also 60 companies. 60, I don't know how many it was. That's not a great deal, is it?
Scale, is it? But
It's not insignificant, but equally it's not massive. I don't know what the split across that 60 odd companies was. Was it a mixture of products?
I have no idea, but it comes down to, if you look at the pandemic and the effect that had, all the institutions that had dated ways of working were called out, and the world proved that where possible, people can work remotely. Yeah. Obviously, there are jobs that you can't do remotely. Like, you can't be a waiter remotely. So
give it a go.
But you know what I mean? I think it surfaced a lot of changes that are necessary, and I think in 2023, if you're not paying close attention or giving a shit about what the people that work for the business need, then you're just a shit employer, aren't you?
Yeah. You're in interviews a lot. Has it ever come up from a candidate's side? Question, even if it's just a question rather than I demand a 4-day working week. You know, have you ever been put on the spot and someone ask about it?
Every single interview that we've done in the last 2 years.
Really?
What's the working pattern? How many work from home days? Is there remote? And it's common practice, and I think we didn't have hybrid working before the pandemic, but we were very quick to not only put it in place, but it stayed.
Yeah, yeah.
Because fundamentally what happened is we implemented it and it didn't affect our delivery of client work, but it improved people's general well-being, I think.
Yeah. The interview questions, have you specifically been asked about 4-day working week, or is it more just the pattern of work, which I guess is still absolutely intertwined?
It's more around what system have you got in place? like how many work from home days? Are you hybrid? Are you, it's like, it's more inquisitive, but it always comes up.
I wonder if now, with the 6-month trial having been and gone, and then the media blowing it out of proportions, if we think that they are, talking about the results of it, I wonder if from this point onwards in interviews you might hear that specifically be brought up a bit more. The only thing I would think is from a candidate's perspective, I would have thought Flaunt would be sort of talking about we're a 4-day working week agency if we were, so maybe it wouldn't come up by virtue of we don't shout about it, so surely you would. But it does make me wonder whether now there's a little bit more visibility into it.
There will be a wave of businesses that move to it as a recruitment play.
Yeah, but that seems so short-termist to me.
I think what will happen is there will be a wave of businesses that take advantage of the appeal and shout about it and list it, and there will be a wave of people that then move to companies that are doing it, and then there will be a follow-on from that where employee happiness within those places is not matching expectation. Yet they've been swayed by the benefit of having a 5-day salary on a 4-day working week.
Yeah.
And then the companies that continue to look after their staff, genuinely look after their staff, will be the companies that continue to win.
Do you think that there's going to be upward pressure from employees into employers to say, why aren't we adopting this 4-day working week? And then there's going to have to be actually quite a big education piece from employers' responsibility back to employees.
I guarantee there's a handful, if not probably everyone within our business that's thinking, why could we not do
But
4 days?
we're established, it's set up. You think about the clients that you're working with. To me, it's obvious. To me, it's staring you in the face. You're like, what are the mechanics of dropping a day? I think one of our clients recently said they're a 24/7 business. So just on that principle alone, but it obviously explained with a few more intricacies, like, it just doesn't work. And it's, for me, it's really apparent why it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not so obvious for some people. It's just about communication, isn't it? I'm happy to have that conversation in as much depth as anyone would want to have that conversation. It's just...
Yeah.
I'm interested to see the response from other businesses that aren't part of the trial. And of course, what's not in the media is the businesses that have trialled it and said that it didn't work.
Well, 100%, yeah. They skirt around that, don't they? Which is, it's a media story, innit? So they want to make it as substantial and as eye-opening and impactful as possible. So, yeah, we all get that. But you are right, yeah. Under the radar is the granted small handful, if you believe the numbers that they're pushing out, small handful that it hasn't worked out for whatever reasons. It'd be really good to see if there was a common thread between those companies. That
I would like to see a trial where there are 100 companies that have got flexible working or hybrid working in place, and if they do the 4-day, whether that improves anything.
Yeah.
So I think I would select flexibility over dropping a day.
Yeah, because I would also argue what comes with dropping a day.
Well, yeah.
Against using the word flexibility. If you're told to drop a day, the cynic in me thinks, well, where else? If we're losing that day, surely the flexibility that I might have once had has to be retracted to some degree to facilitate losing a day. I might be completely wrong there, but
there'll be some people that have to do 5 days working 4 days. There will be some people that will lose a bit of flexibility. There will be some people that will think this is the best thing ever, and 2 months down the line they're like, oh, I wish I could just change this, or I wish I could move my day to this.
Yeah. Wonder if it'll be permanent en masse enough for us to notice it, for it to be a thing rather than a 6-month trial. We're all talking about it now. We're doing a podcast episode on it, and we never come back to it. I wonder if it'll...
I think the only way that it would work would be if the entire working world moved to a 4-day working week, and then there would be no ambiguity across businesses. But then what would happen is you'd probably get a couple of years down the line and people would be like, can we do a flexible 4-day working week?
Yeah. Keeps
Can
going.
we do a 3-day working week?
Yeah, I'll just come in on a Monday for half a day, but I'll be flexible on that. Yeah, it's interesting. It's another one of these sort of major shifts, and I don't mean major in terms of it's en masse. Don't think there's a big population yet to be talking about this that have adopted it, but we're in the early throes of something, and whether it just gets put in the bin in 6 months, 12 months, a year, 2 years time, maybe. But it is another major shift in terms of talking about working.
I'm behind it. I'm behind the principle of it because it puts the spotlight on the businesses that are doing a really shit job of looking after the staff.
Yeah,
and
again.
it's just another thing that you can hit those businesses over the head with. I think it's not for a lot of businesses. It's applicable for some businesses, but the halo effect of it being in the spotlight means your institutions are like, oh, fuck yeah, we're not going to get away with that anymore. So it surfaces the shit employers, ultimately.
Yeah. Do you, a final question, I guess, like, from owning a business perspective, do you read these things and like immediately go, oh, for fuck's sake, like, do you feel pressured by any of these things that are almost directly talking to you as a business owner, aren't they, really, in the way of, look at all these companies, 4-day working weeks working for them. Like, do you just get sort of fed up with it and just chuck it to one side, or do you suddenly feel like here's another thing that is going to come with maybe education internally, for example? Like, how do you immediately?
I mean, I'm always curious about the reasons for these things rolling out in the first instance. I wouldn't go as far as to say it makes me think, oh shit, because I think the line of communication that we've got with the team is so open that it would either be discussed if it was on someone's mind to the point where it was like being a consideration, or but it doesn't bother me in a sense.
No, but it's the media at the end of the day, and at this stage, it's again saying how cynical I am.
But I see the benefits in it, and we're not perfect. We do the best job we absolutely can, but we're not perfect. So being closed off to ideas like that would be, I think, naive.
It would, and like you're saying, you're sort of behind the principle and where it's coming from and what it's trying to do. The two metrics that I keep reading, you can't really argue about them. Productivity, granted, there's loads of questions about that. What do you mean? But what's the sort of the barometers for before and after in terms of productivity uplift with a 4-day working week? I get that. And then the second one, but you can't sort of argue with that as a metric, however you define it as an organisation. And the second one is employee happiness, well-being. Again, loads of questions about it, but those two metrics stand firm as pretty damn important. It's sort of inward looking and outward looking as well from a productivity perspective.
I would argue that every single business can improve both of those things, though, without a 4-day working week.
Yeah. So my interpretation of what you're saying about you behind it, elements of it must be us hearing about these things as well, these two metrics. Well, how can you argue against them? They're not intrinsically linked to a 4-day working week or not.
No. And I think every business wants to surely improve productivity and employee happiness.
Yeah.
But it's the businesses that were thinking about employee happiness 10 years ago that are the businesses that are probably looking at the 4-day working week and going, oh, that's all right, but not really applicable.
Yeah. Good. Nice.
I'm feeling it.
Cold.
I'm certainly not cold in this thing. It's toasty.
They're at that stage, like, before you wash them, they're really fleecy on the inside.
Yeah, it's lovely.
So the best stage.